Hello and welcome to Fix My Fees podcast, a podcast where merchant processing is so boring, we bring interesting people on and have them bring tactics, strategies, and information to inform our entrepreneurs. I am your guest, Tavious Washington, and today we have Dan Salganik. And I met Dan a couple of weeks ago, and it was really interesting going through his website and his business as a CEO of VisualFizz. And it was because of the range. Man, the case study range, I know people say niche, but like the amount of things from like regular people to unique infrastructures and processes like security firms. You have such a wide range of who you help that it was amazing to see those testimonials, those case studies and things that you do, because they were all still their own unique styles, flavors, and things like that. So thank you for coming on here with me today, man.
Yeah, Tavious, I appreciate it. Thank you. And I'm going to apologize in advance that my headphones are my background's eating my face with the headphones, but we're here to talk, right? Not to look at my face.
That's all. That's what it's saying. It's saying it wants to block out everything so it can just see you. It's like, I just want the handsome man. You know what I mean? So how did I even love the name, VisualFizz. How did the company, the idea, the business come to fruition?
Yeah, I mean there's a little bit of a long history there, but the short end of it is where it started was I'm an operations and finance guy. That's how I started my college career, and I worked at agencies right out of college, small, medium, large, 5 people to 1,000 plus, and I just found problems in each one that I worked at. Of course, they were great places, but inefficiency, high overhead, not quite focused on the client, this, that, and the other. And I decided after actually a big layoff at the place that I was at, I think I could do it better. And so I ended up meeting my co-founder, and basically it took off. I was pretty young at the time. I won't say how young, but said, listen, I've worked at these agencies. I think we could do something better. I come from project management. My co-founder came from, strategy and more tactical implementation. Wow. And then I said, okay, cool. I'm going to Southeast Asia. I have a one-way ticket. Let's do it. She's like, oh, okay. Got our first client in 9 days. Actually, since the meeting, it was in Southeast Asia. I remember taking calls at 3 in the morning on the top of a tower in Vietnam with the lights off, trying to work on American time zones. And my first client was actually in Kuwait. It was crazy. And then just kind of snowballed from there. We wanted to start as an experiential marketing agency where the fizz comes in here, because you could touch it, taste it, smell it, all the stuff. Fizz is experiential in some capacity, but then we kind of moved much more into technical and SEO and web development and that thing, which I'm kind of glad we did because COVID hit and who knows where the business could have gone. So, yeah, it's almost 10 years coming up, which is crazy. And really love every day.
Got it. I think I saw something in your profile where you even your marketing, I guess, journey started like in junior high or something?
Yeah,
or junior college, maybe?
It was probably high school, I started my first project. I knew I was always going to be an entrepreneur. And so I actually started a free hugs day at my school where I sold free hugs t-shirts that I would spray paint with t-shirt quality spray. And I sold it to first year was 100 kids. The second year was my school and the next sister school. And I realized now as an adult, I definitely charged too little, but I sold a couple hundred, made a couple bucks. Then I started my first business back in college. I started a software company within kind of crowdfunding, the early days of Kickstarter, Indiegogo. Learned a lot. Learned a lot about agencies. We hired one when we were working on that. I was 20 at the time and had a team of contractors and an agency turns and a lot of tough challenges, but a lot to teach you about web development and finance and P&Ls and always being close to the dollar as a business too, which is really important. That was my biggest learning back when I started that company. So yeah. I mean, I will probably, we'll see. I mean, I'd love to come back to this podcast in 20 years, but I don't think I'll ever not be an entrepreneur. I love working for myself. I'm my worst and best friend and enemy, right? So
that's how it is with some of it seems like the brightest minds. It's like everyone loves you more than you love you. They're like, man, nah, I'm still trying to figure this out. And you're like, no, you're doing great. It's like, no, still trying to figure this out.
Oh yeah. If your mind is running at midnight, you're probably a founder, like
Yep.
the clock, I just, this is TMI. My wife is like, "Hey, we're going on vacation soon." And she's like, "Dan, you're putting your laptop down." I'm like, "I'm gonna do my best. Listen, I'm work-life balance is important. I'm gonna try it." So that's all I could say.
Yes, I am. I'm looking forward to that too. I'm doing my first vacation. I am going to Ghana, and I am
Oh,
not allowed
nice. No,
not
don't work.
allowed to work at all. So it has been many years, even,
I
because
know.
I'm just used to it. I can still travel, but I got
Yeah.
my laptop just in case. You know what I
Oh
mean? I'm
yeah.
always done. So this will be my first disconnect. So I know
Good.
how that
Good.
feels. Um, so like, as far as like your day to day and what you're doing, do you find yourself still more in the creative side? Are you more working on it? What does your day to day look like?
Man, I wish I could be honest and say that I'm working to build the business, which I am a lot, but I find myself in it a lot. My challenge is I really love what I do, but the interesting part is I'm not a creative, I'm not a developer, I'm I'm none of it. I'm an operator. But I really enjoy the work that we do to a point where I just get over invested and it's a challenge, it's a good and a bad thing because I love doing what I do and I'm hoping my team doesn't mind that I pop in and have suggestions because we're a small team. But I need to work to build the business. And every quarter or two, I have to remind myself and the team, listen, I've got to be out of a few calls. I've got to do this because I need to work to scale. And I will tell you the weeks and the months that I get that time and really focus, you feel that snowball like 2 to 3 months later. Everything takes time. So like in November of last year, I really kind of strapped down and like worked on a ton of stuff. Well, now it's a time of right now when we're shooting, right? It's February, March, and I'm feeling a lot of what I worked on a few months ago because I had the time. So both, unfortunately.
And being in your business for so long, a lot of companies just feel like for some reason that their problems and challenges are unique. Like, oh man, I'm glad for Dan, but like my problems are unique. You know what I mean? I'm glad he got there. What were some of the challenges? You've been through the ups and downs over, 10
Oh,
years with the
totally.
business. So what are some of the challenges, especially like early on, that you kind of had to overcome or things you had to learn yourself? And how did you start to address those issues?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's very few unique challenges in being a startup. One of them is capital, right? My business is a service business, and I built it with almost nothing. I think there's more resources now than there ever have been in terms of being able to start a under or uncapitalized business because you have AI, you have all the tools. There's a huge amount of competition. My industry, I'm not, you know, I'll be the first to tell you there are way too many agencies. And there are more
Oh,
and more as AI comes to play, offshore teams come into the mix as new blood, people that were kids and teenagers that were born into the digital world are faster, right? So there's a lot. I think one of the first challenges was obviously scaling and finding our first customers when we had no proof of concept. We had no case studies, we had no logos, and we just had to basically hustle a little bit to figure that out. But as we grew a little bit, and we're able to afford the opportunity to hire people, that was a very big risk. Hiring our first project manager, who was our first hire, at a reasonable salary meant the money no longer goes in our pockets when we weren't making that much money already, but we knew that was a shift. So
mm.
every year since then we hired full time at least one or two people, maybe even more certain years. We also have a full contract team that we work with that's pretty local to the US and Chicago. But the more you hire, the more you do that, you start to get overhead. And that was like the whole premise of what I wanted to avoid. But I realized that there's quality and there's ways that you can develop ebbs and flows in many services businesses, especially in agencies, creative companies, development companies, anything. You have a teeter-totter. I learned this and then I talk about it a lot now that most agencies, and you can't see my hands because of my background eating me, but you have a teeter-totter and you start to gain a couple large clients. It's called your first six-figure client or your seven-figure client, whatever business you're in, and you have to hire up. And then you get a
Mm.
little too overzealous on how many team members you have, or you lose that client, and then you have to consolidate and you have to lay off, and then you're there and there and there. And so there's this teeter-totter effect of especially service-based businesses where your greatest asset are your team members. methodology since the beginning, and now it's become much more common, but it wasn't back in 2016, 17, was the teeter-totter should barely move. You should have ebbs and flows like this, not like this. And my theory was always, if I lose my biggest client, will I have to lay off my team? And now, and for many couple to many of years, it has not been the case. And that happens by being able to kind of systematically plan your type of projects, your recurring revenue, which is incredibly important, going back to what we talked about like being not so far from the money, understanding where it's coming from, so recurring revenue, and then additionally
Mhm.
having contract support so that if you double in size, you gain a massive client you didn't expect and they need your work ASAP, you're not turning down that six-figure plus client. You said, yeah, I've got support. I've got a whole ecosystem of people that work for me. I'm the biggest customer of most of my contract team. And so they know that they're going to expand with me and retract. We lost a big client back last year. I knew that was going to happen. I was kind of preemptively waiting. So no one gets laid off. I've never made a layoff due to economic reasons or my own, misjudgment on finances. So I think that's always really important because it's a business. Money is the number one thing. There's many other challenges, but obviously being able to pay your team and yourself is the number one, and scale up from there.
And you were mentioning the like how things are going and there's too many agencies, and still even within that being able to retain things and keep them in order so that you can make sure you're bringing on people and they feel secure and they're excited still to go through those things. But there is an overabundance of agencies, there is an overabundance of things, and with, like you said, with AI it becomes easy because the bottom floor of what can be created is now raised, right? Because you
Mhm.
could always be like, that logo, that branding, that website, that Facebook ad is, you can tell it was by $100, a month
Totally.
type person. And now that floor is raised because of AI, which means more people feel like they're good at something they're not. So how do you combat that? Does it concern you or bother you, or how do you separate yourself from that as we get more and more people who are going to be even more emboldened? And then, like you said, having overseas people who may not need as much to sustain their lifestyle, so they can provide stuff at
Yep.
cheaper. How do you combat that as time goes on?
Yeah, it's challenging. I mean, honestly, I feel kind of like the newer agency folks are probably more challenged than me because of the nature of that. I think from my end, I have 10 years of experience and teams and a brand under my belt. But I've verticalized, like, you noted that we are pretty wide net, and we are in some regard, but we're also we're verticalized in a handful of sub industries or industries that we know we're really good at. And if it's not industries, it's a type of customer, which is almost just as important. Um,
Yeah.
we have a lot of high tech clients, we have cannabis clients, but our bread and butter are multi-generational growth stage companies that are looking to go 50 to 200 million, 200 to 500, 500 to a billion. And they ultimately have not had a digital presence or growth kind of plan, or they don't want to have a full marketing team that they have to bring on and hire full time. And so we can be that AI focused company. We don't really do all of that to, like, say we use, AI day to day, every single day, all the time. We use it as tools to be more efficient and effective, but it's not our end all be all. And so, and often in many cases, these are companies that still value good quality work, the psychology behind building a proper website with true funnels that are built by humans. And so AI creates efficiencies to allow us to adapt to provide more for similar pricing. But I do not involve VisualFizz or myself in price wars, or, when AI does come up, I wholeheartedly allow that to happen because I know oftentimes it's going to come back to VisualFizz. I have a lot of clients who say, I'm going to have AI do it. No, not prospective clients. And I'm like, I'll see you in 3 months. I joke around, but
Right.
I do see them. I see them in 3 months. But I think to answer your question more kind of forward, it's quality and it's relationships. I mean, relationships is huge. And when you see a company that has 75 case studies and 50, 70 5-star reviews and, good clients in their portfolio, I think they'll always still be interested in bringing on the right agency. And my final answer to you, because I always talk a lot, Tavius, is the the floor of marketing agencies has changed too. The way I describe it is you have these behemoths, right? These big names out there, and I think they're struggling. The way that most of them are growing right now are purely through merger and acquisition. And the
Yes.
Billion-dollar agencies are buying $50 million agencies or $100 million agencies. The $100 million agencies are buying the $30 million agencies, those to the next. But what I find interesting is the clients that I have a good handful of clients that are doing 1 to 20 to $50 billion a year, and I'm a little agency. And so what I also find is that the client that would oftentimes go to a Leo or an FCB or one of these big top dog agencies says, you know what? VisualFizz can build my website for an eighth of what these guys charge, probably 40% faster, and just the same quality, if not better, because they're the big fish in our pond. And so we have a handful of Fortune 500 clients in our roster. So I think each level of where clients used to be has gone down one. So we might be eating the lunch of a 20 to $40 million agency, even though we are not a 20 to $40 million agency because they've stepped to a more nimble team.
Yeah. Did you fall into those verticals? Did you like them? Because, they are always thinking, should I niche down? Should I go into multiple niches? Should I understand a category? So instead of being like, I'm the roofer, I'm home services, which may cover roofing, siding, doors, right? And so there's that debate has been around for like, I guess since SMMA has existed. It's niche down, be broad, pick categories. How did you come about that, and what recommendations would you give to someone who's kind of stuck in that phase? Maybe they're at 10, 20 a month and EK a month, and they're like, if I want to get to 6 figures a month, if I want to be able to hire a team, should I hone down or should I expand? What do you say to that?
It's such a tough question because man, I've dealt with that for years. Like we still support all types of clients, but we have niched down. And I will tell you, I hate to say it, but you kind of have to. Even if it's broad, like we're a full service agnostic agency from the services perspective, and some don't. You can either niche down by service or by vertical. Candidly, it's boring to me. And the other thing is, I find a lot of agencies, like if you're a small business owner and you're an agency and you want to make money and make like high margins, but not really love what you do, you go the route of one vertical, one service. I do paid search for home repair for like garage, and windows or whatever. But you're doing the same thing. Will I tell you that your margins will be better? Yeah. You can probably you could probably build $1 million company and do 40, 50% margins on it, maybe better. I find that to be very not rudimentary because I think that's underselling it, but boring. And I personally wouldn't want to do it. But I
Right.
think that, yes, after many years of fighting it, I am becoming more and more verticalized in what I call builds, which is industrial manufacturing, construction, logistics, basically infrastructure, with an offshoot of technology as a secondary because I do not want to lose that capability. And the third, which has completely fallen in our lap, completely by accident, we built a sub agency around it, which is cannabis. Three, literally, if you create the triangle, these are three total, like it's like the most, and I say boring, I love them, but like
I
concrete,
know what you
cement,
mean.
paving, like we're talking commodity forever to high tech, like some of the most instrumental PE funded companies, PE firms, and then cannabis, like a controlled substance that isn't technically federally legal. So very different, but my team has fun. And I'll tell you, like, we have a meeting maybe once a year where I let them choose what we're going to work on. I call some shots, but I tell the team, what are we doing? What are we not? And for example, hospitality, there's some that we do work with because the clients are amazing, but we don't touch hospitality unless we know the client's going to be great. Like we're not even fighting for it at all. So yeah, sorry, very long answers you're going to get from me, but yes, long story short, understand where you fall in the market. Even though I have this vertical, I was told just last week I am not verticalized enough to in the machinery space, even though we have a dozen machinery clients because they wanted one for their sub niche. So be it. But I think it's worth knowing what you're good at and selling the heck out of that. You're just gonna be more confident too.
Yeah, no, I like that because there's that era of like when you can tone down or hone it in, then you can speak to it more. You can understand more of their problems, which means people always have problems with content, well, and it's because when there's everything to talk about, then there's everything to think about, which means there's nothing to really start to post or with, right? So if you can at least start with honing down to who do I not want to work with? You can at least start to build it from
Oh yeah.
there, right? What is your ideal client versus the person you don't want to work with? And then the people you don't want to work with, what type of industries, where are they? And the people you do want to work with, those ideal clients. And I don't mean the guy that's just like, I just want a person who's great and awesome. Like, really break it down. They pay on time. They ask questions before, becomes a big problem. They want to work with me for years. Those kinds of things. At least start there, but you got to start niching down so you can have more conversations around it. And, as you're diving into that, you can leverage AI for ideas, but are you leveraging AI in your side? I know you talked about using it as a tool, but is this something you're planning on integrating more, or do you plan on leaning still more on that personal touch, or a blend?
Yeah, I mean the blend. Like I like it as a tool for efficiency and effective work, as well as like a quality control method and something to help me. For example, I used to spend quite a bit of time on proposals because I'm not a writer. I'm not going to write the most well-worded, beautiful piece of content that my prospective client is going to fall in love with. I think I'm pretty good at it, but I speak, right? Like that's what I do. I talk, as you could
Yes.
tell. And what it allows me to do, something that I
I'm the
tell the
same
team
way.
about. Yeah, I mean, hey, listen, get me at a bar or coffee shop, and you're gonna sign, But you're gonna have me write you an essay. You're probably not gonna want to work with me. I have great writers for that. The thing that I like to do, though, unlike a lot of people, like my wife and a handful of my team members, and like Dan, you're crazy, is I actually do, for example, speech to text. I go and I open Google Docs and I just talk. Like I take all of my thoughts, all of my concepts, like because I do consider myself a marketer, even though I'm an operator, and I just combine all this amalgamation of stuff in my brain to say this is how I see it. These are your problems. These are solutions. Da da da. I'll take an AI transcript of my call. I'll combine my thoughts and say, combine this with what we're talking about because I want it to be heard. And then I obviously quality control, make sure everything's looking good. And I'll combine all that into a beautifully written SOW. Is that cheating? I don't think so because I took my theories and thoughts and ideas, I combined it with what the client wants. It creates a much more uniform kind of next step. And additionally, then my team has a lot more information to chew on before they ever even meet the client. And so I like that process. I like using it as a tool like that. But am I using it to create visuals that I'm going to send to clients for like social media and stuff? Almost never, unless we tell them in advance we're doing it. Like, for example, when we're pitching a campaign, we'll create mock-ups with AI to pitch, but we'll even note this was made from AI. It will be edited by a person, or we'll want to use real shots. I don't know. Maybe we're a little behind, but I prefer this route over just spitting out a bunch of AI stuff constantly. People can tell.
Yeah, I do feel like they're obviously, depending on when you start to actually dive into AI, you won't be able to notice as much. But I think because people are so rapidly trying to use it or abuse it, however you want to feel it, you can start to tell. And you start to tell, and I think that is going to be the huge difference is the people who go people first and AI makes me more efficient. And then the
Yep.
people who will start to really fall to the bottom of the gap is the people who are like, I'm going to use AI first, and then I'm going to insert myself at the end to clean up the errors. And I really do believe that that's a difference when you say AI, create me this, and then going in and making your changes versus saying, this is what I want, this is what I like, getting it all down, and then feeding it to AI. And then
Totally.
after that, cleaning it up also. So that's what I find
Oh yeah.
myself doing. I'm a talker, as you see too. And so I feel AI, I don't really use it for creatives. I don't really use it for that. But when I want to talk and just iron out ideas, cool. I can find somebody that I can yell at sometimes, hey, you're not listening to me. Like, listen,
Hmm.
this is my idea and I really need to bring it out. And I can have it go deeper and deeper, deeper layers just for no reason, just because I
Oh yeah.
can. I can just talk with it, right? Something that I wouldn't do with a person because they would go crazy. Like, why would you want that? I don't know if I want that. I just want to see what it looks like if I plan it out.
Totally. Totally. No, I agree. I mean, another really good use case is like I mean, I'm a big believer that reports should be high quality. Clients are paying for all this work. They should know what they're doing. So we use AI, like we use a pretty nice tool now, but we couple that with AI because it does the analytics reporting, it does all the math for us. So it cleans up process. So back when a client had to pay 3 hours for a report, which again is kind of a lot, but like you have to do the math, you have to do the work, you have to analyze. AI does the analysis, and then we build on top of it based on human brains. That being said, we have caught that the AI has made mistakes pretty consistently, and so you have to QA the work. I don't think it's, again, cheating if you're using a platform to be more efficient, because a client would rather pay 2 hours for more implementation than for more reporting if it's the outcome is the same, if not even worse, considering your hand doing it. So I think using tools that utilize AI as a means to be more efficient again are great. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, I would trade. I mean, I think anybody would trade that. Do you want me to work on your business or create reports? And I can use AI for that.
mhm,
So there's still a human element, and there are going to be some things that won't need a human element as time
yeah,
goes on. But not having a human element doesn't mean that there's not a human involved. There's human involved inside of getting the data,
totally.
creating it. Heck, people who say like I have AI that writes my emails. The difference between the emails who are great and the emails that are repetitive and terrible is the ones that are great probably wrote their own 10,000 emails already, fed those 10,000, these 5,000 worked. Here's what I'm creating that's still
Oh yeah,
working. And it's going off that versus, hey, chat, you're an expert copywriter, right? Me. You know what I
yeah,
mean? There's a complete difference in that data set when a human can keep feeding it and it getting better from that
hmm,
versus just it's getting its own data and refining its own data from Google, right? In that
totally.
way, you
Yeah,
know.
100% agree.
Do you leverage AI like in your personal life at all?
I do. I was debating whether I should bring it up, but I have in a really important, like I had a leg injury about a year and a half ago playing sports, and it was just like all over the place because it was hard to figure out where it was, like the issues, and I got like what's it called, a CAT scan, and I got a series of doctors and physical therapy and blood work, and it was all this stuff because I really couldn't figure out what was causing this larger issue. And over the course of like 9 months, because the problem is doctors don't advocate, right? They do the work, they're in and out, they have a quota they've got to work on. I've really found had a negative response to doctors over the past year because I was like, I'm in pain, like fix me. And we couldn't. And so what I did is I walked through everything on a timeline over a year. Here's what I did. I was playing soccer. This is when it started. This is what I did. These are the reports, false, positive, this, that, the other. Combined it all. Then I took all of the medical reports that I had, and combined everything, threw it all into Dr. GPT, which I don't recommend it for people. But what it did is it created a beautiful timeline, in-depth analysis, everything. And then when I went and met a new doctor, because at this point I expected that they should do their research and work before I get there. I was like, no, I'm not coming in until you read my report. So I actually ended up sending them a 2-page report and then the long version, like a timeline, and then the long version, which is like 10 pages, right? And it broke everything down beautifully, and it had all my supporting documents, which is, I mean, again, this is like nerding out, but I'll tell you,
Yeah.
I went to the doctor, and that doctor, probably the quality of the doctor too, to be candid, was like, I've never received this from a patient. I wish every patient did this because this is amazing. It's like the fact that I have your full history, your timeline, your blood work, the summaries. I don't have to go searching from 50 different places all in one. And she like figured out the issue, right? And that was
Wow.
like that was literally life changing because you're in pain from an injury. It was hugely beneficial. I do it for other stuff too. I sometimes I think AI knows too much about me, but like I'll use it for finance and like understanding what I should do in certain times, and thinking about, I don't use it for like stock picks, but like thinking about, hey, if I did this, what would be the scenario? These, that, the other. So like I like to think about more like stuff that I'm just not privy to, that maybe, especially as an entrepreneur, and I'm sure you have quite a few listening, there are so many little, not, they're not loopholes, but they're like hints and cheat codes into like what you should be doing that we normal people don't know that your accountants know. And it's really CPAs who are expensive, right? And like I wasn't given the luxury of an expensive CPA until recently, and he's really, really good. But there's so many things that you simply just don't know, like how much you really should be paying yourself, how much, like the difference between a Roth and IRA and a 1K and a backdoor Roth and a mega Roth, and like all these things. And I just feel like I kept on doing research and I couldn't like figure out based on my scenario what I should be doing. and I'm a finance minor. I know I've been doing finance. Like I bought my first stocks when I was in sixth grade, and I legitimately it helps on that stuff too. So yeah, long short of it is I think there's a lot of use cases. I fixed my car using AI. I do a lot of DIY. So yes, like a ton. I nowadays I use it for nearly everything.
Got it.
Long
And y'all
answers.
y'all hear that, right? Dan and Tavius are saying we use it for, you can use it for the medical stuff to build the timeline, not to solve your crisis. All
Yes.
right. So
Yes, because it was
listen,
wrong many
not medical
times.
advice.
Yes, yes, yes. It was wrong many times, and it gave some good guesses that I could, the big thing I would say is it educated me as a consumer. I think if I were to say
Right.
anything, I don't want to come in saying I'm Dr. Salganik here because I'm not. But I can speak confidently to what I now know, saying, hey, I've done these tests and these were the results, and these are the few things that I think it could be. I'd love for you to, take action on that. And to be candid, like
Mhm.
I never had to think about those things from other injuries, etc. So that made me much more qualified to come in and again advocate for myself as a patient than saying, ouch, my leg hurts. Can you fix it? Because that doesn't solve anything. You could say it hurts here, but with that timeline, with the plan, I could say I think it could be one of these things because da 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 da. Do you feel like that's actually the way it should be? I'm sure doctors will get a little annoyed, but you having knowledge makes you I don't want to say bigger person. It makes you
More informed.
a more informed, yeah, a more informed person in any scenario.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the way I
Yeah.
put
Because,
it.
yeah, no. Because when you are informed more, you can have better conversations instead of, like you said, my knee hurts, ow, here. And then they have to go, what happened? They're going
Yeah,
through the whole timeline. And as the timeline goes, they could already start forming what they think in their head versus
exactly.
if you're saying,
Yes.
hey, here's the timeline, here's the pain level. I've
Hmm.
tried this, I've tried that. This is what I think. The only way I can see them getting upset is if you believe AI more
Yeah.
than them.
Yeah, that's a big one. And
If they
and what
take
you
that
said
and they
was so
go, hey,
important.
yeah, if they take that and they go, hey,
Yeah.
you know what? I think this, listen. But if you're like, no, but the report, I think that's
Yeah.
when like,
Yeah.
yeah,
No, and what you said is really important because every time I went in, I had to repeat the story, and it's a year of different like injury related stuff. So that's why I said I'm not repeating. Like I wasn't trying to be a jerk. I'm like I'm not repeating it. I want to give you this 5 days, 10 days in advance. Read it. Come to me with your thoughts. And like it wasn't to try to be a jerk, but it was to be helpful of their
efficient.
time and
Yeah.
efficient because they could do this in their own time when they have 5 minutes, knowing that they're expecting me. And I've done A, B, C, D already. And I'll tell you, it's better. Like I'm improved, and yeah, in all those scenarios, uh, it's a good tool. It's a good tool.
Yeah. And as we're starting to blend, the business to how you're doing things personal, how do you manage that work life balance?
Mm,
Running your biz and employees to being able to go home. From what we talked about earlier, hope you don't get mad at me bringing personal life, but like the nursery and then the room and how you separate them.
yep.
Daytime, it's a workspace, and the nighttime, it's a bedroom, right? Like, how do you manage and make sure that you're giving that balance where both sides can get the best versions of you?
Yeah, I mean that is such a challenge for entrepreneurs. And like when I was young, a little bit younger, when I started my company, I didn't have much of that. I was going to I mean, I had spent some time in New York. I did like a little stint there for fun, and I was doing two events, 2 to 3 events every night for a month. So I was doing 10, 40, maybe 30 to 40 events. In Chicago where I live, I was doing probably 3 to 4 a week. And kind of like a few things happened. One, I noted that like I met a lot of great people, but like not a ton came out of it. So I started to get more selective about what I do. And I would say it's a luxury. And I'm not saying like that and like, ooh, but like when you start your business, you're brand new, you have to have people know who you are. And I still feel like that every day. But I'd say at this stage in the business, I'm not looking to be everywhere all the time, all at once. Like it's not my personality to do that, even though I have a rather loud personality. But I've become pickier. Now, to the nursery, right? Like I'm very selective about my life and what I do. I do have to work hard, and I don't work weekends anymore unless I have to. I finish work at 5 to 5:30. I'll get back on the computer at 7 till 10 if I have to, or whatever. I do work when I travel, and it's hard. I will be honest, like, like I went to Europe a couple years ago, and I had to give my wife my cell phone every day from like 9 a.m. Central Standard, which was like 4 o'clock, until we were done with dinner and like all that because I knew I was on. So it is very hard. But I think the thing is, one, if you have a team, you gotta hire them and trust them. They did all the work they needed to do. So it's like, why am I always on there? So that's one thing. I think the other part is having hard boundaries. I think an
Mhm.
entrepreneur life is, and I'm sure you have plenty of people listening on this and people that I can talk about. It is a mentally draining position being a founder, and it is tiring, and you fail a lot, and you win two things and you lose three, and you made a $10,000 and you lost 15, and everything in between. So it's very grueling, and I think like now I'm 10 years and almost 10 years into this business. I've started other ones. I failed in it, lost a lot of money. You have to kind of just roll with it. You have to realize like the biggest thing, like I became a dad, and I will tell you like even the concept of money, which is so important, obviously. Like I'm not talking about becoming a buku billionaire, but just having comfort, like going to the grocery and being able to just be like, yeah, I want these things, I'm going to buy them, or going to a restaurant and not always thinking about price. Those are basic luxuries, they're important, but it's not like I'm not looking to buy, bunch of fancy cars and planes and stuff, but I think that change, that shift when you have a kid is like none of that really matters so much. It's security, which is important. It goes from like I want to do fancy cocktail nights to like, which I do love still, uh, to like how am I gonna get to pay for my kids' college? When I'm gonna be able to buy a house that I don't have to share my office with the nursery. And I think by that, and then also knowing you have so little time. I went very philosophical in this. I apologize, but like you have so little time to spend, especially when you've got like young ones or friends and family, that I realized the business is like it is not your full personality. It does eat you up a lot, but like you've got to separate. You have to, otherwise you're always in it, and it can hurt a lot of relationships. I thankfully I have a supportive family and a wife and everything, but I think if I did it all the time, it wouldn't be the same. There would certainly be
Mhm.
boundaries that I'm crossing.
Yeah, I like that concept. I think too many people don't have enough of it. Maybe they don't
Hmm.
understand it. Maybe they don't enforce it. I am definitely someone who's recently I had to force myself to create more boundaries. So I know what you mean because, especially when you're passionate about what you do, like well, you can very, very easily go into a slippery slope of giving away, doing so much extra stuff
Yep.
on time that's not even work time just because you care that you
Hmm.
end up neglecting the other things that you should be caring about too.
Yeah.
I mean, I have found myself doing like free coaching sessions and hours and hours and hours and hours afterwards. And, because everyone do it. But then next thing you know, it's like, oh, we haven't been on a date in 90 days. It's been 3 months. And it's not from a lack of funds. It's just from a lack of time. And it's like, all right, well,
Yeah.
okay, we that back. But I like how you say you're setting boundaries with your business, trusting your employees, setting the boundaries with the clients. And if I need to, I'm gonna give the wife a phone if I have to. If that's what it means for me
Yeah.
to get this time in, I'll do what I need to do. And I think that that's awesome. So, what's next for you? And do you have anything that you're planning as far as goals for yourself or your business over the next? Well, I mean, we just finished the first quarter over the next year or so.
Yeah, I mean, we're having, knock on wood, a pretty good quarter. The challenge again with entrepreneurship is I hit one milestone, I'm already thinking about the next one, besides celebrating the first one. And that's a challenge. Like, you've got to celebrate milestones too. It's something I don't do a lot, but I want to grow. I think my team, again, I talk about my team a lot. They're very important to me. They're loyal to me if I'm loyal to them if they're loyal to me, and the other way around. I have people who've been with me for 5+ years, and the company is barely, I mean, yes, we're 9 years old, but we weren't legit until 6 years ago, 5 years ago, maybe four. So I have people that stuck with us, good times, bad times, and I want them to be part of that too. So for my end, I do want to grow. I worked for a handful of agencies back again, as I noted, over a decade ago, and unfortunately the ride has been a little longer, but I do want to be bigger than them. I want to scale up. I want to build more. I want to, I like to build big things, and we're starting to move that way. I don't know how to put it. Like we've outgrown a lot of agencies. Like a lot of agencies would have been gone by at this point, 10 years in. They wouldn't hit our revenue. So I will now use this time to acknowledge, yay, we've hit milestones. But again, like, am I satisfied? No. Let's double whatever it takes. Like, but without sacrificing team and other people. I think that's been important to me too. Gotta have fun, you know? If you're not having fun, then like, what are you doing? You know, so I'm a big believer that like, I even talk to my team, I'm like, listen, I know this is a job, but like, at least like, just have fun. Like, even if it's stressful, like, have fun with it. And I know it's easier said than done, but I do think, I won't bring up who or anything like that, but one person's, I had a call with them to, we do quarterly calls, and they stated, they said something along the lines like, like the highlight of my year last year was that you guys hired me. They're like, that was the best thing that could have happened to me that year. And they said, I didn't think I'd be in this type of role until way later, or like, whatever. And like every day is so much fun. And I'm like, hell yeah. Like that's like, to me, that was really important. So like, yes, dollars, again, going back to it, like keep increasing revenue, but like team satisfaction, client satisfaction, super important too. So that's the big one. And then the other part is get back to travel. I had when I started the company, I had a personal goal to travel 100 days a year. I haven't broken that, and I feel like this year I may, unfortunately, but I have to make sure that I don't let work get in the way with life, because you don't. I'm so now I've gotten so emotional, but you really don't live that long. So it's like, why are you letting work manage you? So I'd like to now, like, not step away, but step away from that like grind of day to day, like being in the project, and be more management. So I could travel a little bit and spend some time with my kid and like have fun. Because honestly, that's more important than any of this. So see how it goes.
I like the philosophical Dan. I like it.
Yeah, yeah.
You're
You get me
right, man.
talking. You know, get me on some kombucha, and we'll be talking. I'm just kidding.
I was
No,
just
but
about to say I gotta come hang out with you for the cocktail nights, because then I know
Tavious,
we
I'm
can
a
get to
big
talking.
cocktail guy. Oh yeah, you come by. I'll make anything. I can make a killer old fashioned, a pisco sours. You name the cocktail, anything mezcal related. I got you. We'll.
You make the cocktails for everybody. I'll make the steaks for everybody.
Ooh,
We good.
perfect. Just make sure to take an Uber. Don't drive over. You may not want
Oh yeah,
to.
we can't take those chances, man.
Open
But
invite,
no,
man.
but no, man. I appreciate it. It has been awesome getting to know you and hopping on here. From your passion of your business to understanding you as a person and the work-life balance, and then to even the philosophical side. I think it is really important for us to step back and go, like, one of the things social media has done as it's emphasized how short it is, right? You see so much more often, this person died, this person passed, this person passed. And it's like, man, you start seeing the ages of them and you're like, all right, you know what?
Yep.
The 16-hour days, the trading in the 9 to 5 for 5 to 9 doesn't seem like such a thing anymore. It's like, how do I find the balance to enjoy what I have with the people that I
Yep.
love here where we are now? And so that is a good reminder in these times that we still got to enjoy it. And that doesn't mean you can't grind it out for 6 months, a year, 2 years. But at
Totally.
some point in time, you have to make sure that you're enjoying the fruits of your labor, or it's just labor, right? It's
Yeah.
just that.
Totally
And
agree.
that's not
Yeah.
fun. That's not fun. But all right, man. I appreciate you having on. If people want to get in touch with you, like I said, I've saw your page. I think people, if they started to go through your case studies, they may want to work with you too. But if they wanted to reach out to you with extra questions, or maybe even to work with you, how would they get in touch with you?
Yeah. I mean, visualfizz.com right here.com. Just do that. You can do visualfizz.com and reach out there. My LinkedIn is just my name right here, or my email is dan.salganik@visualfizz.com. So really easy. LinkedIn is cool too. Please feel free to, reach out. Let me know where you've, heard us chat. And yeah, happy to help. I do try to be kind of like you said, Tavius. I do try to be a resource whenever I can, right? Like if I can connect people, put people together, whatever, people remember that. They become friendly and know that you're a resource. So yeah, if people want some help with anything, let me know.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Cool. And I'll make sure that I get that information. We'll put it in the bio so that they can have some clickable links. But if you want to, get in touch with them, please reach out. Thank you again for hopping on with me, Dan. It was fun. This was definitely fun. We'll all, but
I
it's
had a great
definitely been
time.
fun.
Appreciate that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you guys for listening. If you own a business and would like to be on the podcast because you feel like you're doing some different things, reach out to me at Tavious at fixmyfeesteam.com. Other than that, good night, everybody.